Yeah, it feels good just to even maybe talk about those moments a little bit and talk about them in some detail. And I would just love to hear, like, I think also a lot of people don't know what to do in that situation with their loved one. What, how long they should keep the body, what they would want, what they might want to do with the body. And yeah, maybe we could talk a little bit about those moments and maybe favorite rituals that you have for that time or how that time is meaningful for you.
Yeah. Well, the protocol for if someone dies and they're on hospice, if you Google search, uh, what do you do after your loved one dies? The first thing that's going to come up in bold letters is it's going to say, call the hospice as soon as possible. There's a misunderstanding. Um, it's a common misunderstanding that after our loved one dies, whether they're in the hospital or that they die at home, that the body somehow becomes a contaminant, that the
Mm,
body somehow becomes dirty, and it's rushed away, and that's it, that's not the case. Now, sometimes, there's diseases and there's wounds and, like even the pandemic, the COVID is, you wouldn't want to be around a body that had died from that. But for the most part, if someone is dying from, let's say, cancer or congestive heart failure, their body doesn't suddenly become dirty after they've died. There's no reason to rush the after death process. And I have a theory that our grief is well, obviously our grief is broken here in our culture, right? Our grief is broken. And my theory is that it breaks right after death when the body is rushed away and the person does not have the time that they need to take to get into a real solid embodied understanding of that body that is before them. And sometimes that can take an hour, and they'll click and they'll go, okay, I'm ready. Sometimes it takes 8 hours. Sometimes that can take 24 hours. Sometimes that can take 2 days. And so I educate, and I want all of my apprentices to educate, and I want everyone to educate, and neighbors hear the news and educate. Don't rush the after death process. I would say, when for midwives, death midwives, when there's a death, we make tea. And I want that to like sink into my apprentices' brains. When there's a death, we make tea, meaning we stop, we go make tea, everything slows down. Um, and rituals around that time, well, it depends on who you're with, right? And what that family needs and what their rituals would be. If the door is open for me to mark these occasions, I love to have a vigiling candle. So when I see that we are 2 days away from death, day away from death, I will bring in a tall candle. I have one burning on the table behind me, but I'll bring in a tall candle and mark the occasion that the door is open, your loved one is about to leave, and with the flowers out, a photograph, light the candle, music, just set that very sacred space around that transition. And then after the person has left their body, I go make tea while the family is there processing however they may, whether that's stepping outside to puff on their cigar or wailing over the body, however they're processing. But I'm there to guard and help to really and slow down that after loss process and then also just really guard the room, right? Guard this sacred space.